Nina's Kitchen. So it is fall time, and fall usually is the best time to sit on a couch with a comfortable blanket and then watch a great movie or read a great book and have soup. So the focus of this cooking show is that we are going to make 4 different soups. So we are going to start with a Russian soup. It's called borscht. And borscht can be made 3 different ways. You can either make it with chicken, beef, or as a vegetarian. It's very healthy and it literally takes less than half an hour to make it, or more maybe. But it's very easy to make. So we're going to start out with some chicken, the chicken breast that I have cut up. And also we are going to saute some onions. So I'm going to slice the onions small, and we are going to saute them for a little bit. So while we have our onions being sauteed in a little bit of olive oil, I am going to chop up a little bit of garlic. You can put as little or as much as you like, but garlic makes everything taste good anyways. So now that we chopped up our garlic, we're going to add it to our onions that are being sauteed over here. And we'll give it a couple of minutes and then we're going to add our chicken. So we're ready to add our chicken. Just remember that this dish can be made with meat, chicken, or actually no chicken and make it vegetarian. So it tastes good either way. So we are going to let this cook a little bit and then we'll start assembling it with our vegetables. So we are going to add salt and pepper. I'm not going to add much salt to this since I'm adding broth and that has a lot of sodium in it. But if you like it salty, then please go ahead and add some more. You can also add chili powder to this if you like it spicy. So while our chicken is cooking with onions, I have peeled some beets, fresh beets, and we are going to cut some for our borscht. And you can cube these, you can make it any shape, form you like, doesn't matter. For the purposes of this one, I'm going to just cut them in little pieces. Because beets have such a wonderful color, you really don't need to add tomato paste to this soup because the beets are going to make it look very pretty. So here's the beets that we chopped up. I also went ahead and cleaned and chopped some carrots. And we are going to cut up some potatoes. Now, the potatoes are for the starchy part of it. I don't like using cornstarch, so I use potatoes and that'll give it some thickness. Okay, our chicken is done. Now we're going to add our carrots in here and let it simmer for just a few minutes. And then we're going to add our potatoes and put this on medium heat. We'll give it a couple of minutes and then we'll start adding the rest of them. So now we're going to add our potatoes. And you can add more carrots if you like. If you love carrots, you can add more. And we are going to add our beets. And beets, it's really good for you. It's full of vitamins. It helps lower your blood pressure and it helps with inflammation. And it actually helps your energy level. So we'll give it a couple more minutes. So now that we let our vegetable and our chicken marinate together, we are going to add the vegetable stock to it. I'm going to put enough that it's going to cover all of our vegetable and chicken, but then you can also add more if you want to later. Oh, that took up our whole container. And now we are going to add a few other things to it before we finish up. We're going to add a couple of leaves, bay leaves to it. Just don't forget to take them out when you're serving them. And I'm going to cover it and let it simmer for about 10 minutes, and then we will add the rest of the ingredients. So here's the last part of borscht. We are going to cut a cabbage, probably in a smaller and thin slices. And then probably cut them down a little bit more unless you like them big in the soup. So you can see what a beautiful color it has. We are going to add our cabbage to it. Depending on how much of the soup you make, you might not want to put as much cabbage in there. But once it cooks, it's gonna look much, much better. So as we can see, it needs a little bit more juice, so I'm going to add some water. And if it still needs more, I will add more chicken stock and a lemon juice. And let it simmer for another 10-15 minutes. So now make sure that your chicken and your potatoes are cooked thoroughly. So now we are going to pour it in our serving dish. If you need more broth because you like your soup more brothy, please go ahead and add some more chicken broth to it while it's cooking. So the real way of eating borscht, the Russians usually put sour cream on top. So this is a light sour cream I'm going to put on top. You can use the yogurt. You can use the Greek yogurt that is thick, that looks like it. And then I'm going to top it with a little bit of chives and dill. Enjoy. Our next recipe is a lentil vegetable soup. It's very filling and it's easy to make. Lentils are very easy to make because they're quick to cook. They're a great source of protein, and they also have lots of iron in them. So we're also going to add some celery, carrots, onions, garlic, some spinach, and some herbs, and that is it, but it tastes really good. So you will need 1 large onions, and you are going to chop and cube them and then saute them. Chop up some garlic as well. I like a lot of garlic, but you can put less if you don't really care for it. And then just chop them up in little pieces and saute them with your onions. So we are going to pour some olive oil in our pot, and we are going to add our onions to it. After it sautees for a little bit, we're going to add our garlic to it as well. And you can tell the onions are really sauteed well. And I'm going to add the turmeric now. And we're going to let it saute for a few more minutes so the vegetables get a little bit tender. And we will then add the rest of our ingredients. So now you can see the vegetables, Mostly carrot and celery are a bit cooked. So that's all we need. It's going to cook with the lentil anyway. We are going to add our lentil, which I cleaned and washed. We are going to add a little bit of water before we add the broth because you don't want to add too much broth while it's cooking. So we'll just add a little bit more water and then we'll add the broth. For this, I'm going to use the low salt vegetable broth because we really don't need the chicken broth with having lentils and the protein that it has. Okay, as you can see, we have some water and it's going to absorb a lot while it's cooking. And here is some vegetable broth. And you can always add more broth later, so let's try adding some cayenne pepper instead of regular pepper. And I'm going to add some cumin to this. It's going to make it taste really good. You can taste it later and see if it has enough cumin, and if it doesn't, then you can add some more. And I also am going to add some dry thyme. So we're going to mix and then cover and let it simmer until it comes to boil or until the lentils are cooked. It will take about 15-20 minutes. So this is what our soup looks like. I don't think the lentils are cooked all the way, so we do need to add some more liquid to it. I'm going to add some water and some more broth. So once you try the lentils and they're soft, that means they are cooked thorough. So for now, we're going to put the lid back on and let it simmer a little bit more. So the last stage is I'm going to chop up some spinach and put it in the soup. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it'll give it some more color. And you only need a few minutes for this to cook. Every soup needs some sort of acid. This soup does not lend itself to lemon juice or lime juice, but other soups you can add lemon juice or lime juice. I'm actually going to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and it's going to give it some bold taste. You can add a little or more if you want, but it's going to make it taste much better and richer. So I'm going to taste a little bit to see if we have everything correct. It's really hot. It actually tastes really good. You just need a little bit more salt. So here's a delicious bowl of soup. It's great for when it's cold outside, and it's hearty, it's healthy, and it's delicious. Enjoy. We're doing another soup. We are making a butternut squash soup. It's very delicious and very healthy. Butternut squash is actually very good for your digestive system. It's full of fiber and potassium. So it's a fall type of soup, and I used to not like butternut squash, but now I really do like it. What we need for this is onions, apples, carrots, and celery, and some spices. Of course, butternut squash. So what I'm going to do first is to cut up my butternut squash, and I buy these already cut because I honestly don't have the time to cook the actual butternut and cut them into pieces. So I'm going to just broil these or bake them in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes or 40 minutes, depending how long it takes for them to soften. And all I'm going to do is add some olive oil to it and some pepper and salt if you like to add salt. So here we go. For some reason, I always thought butternut would be sweet and not too tasty, but I was proven wrong. So hopefully you'll enjoy this soup as much as I do. While the butternut is being cooked in the oven, I am going to slice my onions because we're going to saute them for a little bit, and then we're going to add our carrots. So now we have some olive oil here. I'm going to pour my onions in there and let it saute for about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll add our garlic to it. Butternut squash tastes really good with apples. So I cut up a few apples. I'm gonna use my little gadget here. And try this big one. So these are going to be big cuts because this soup is going to be pureed, so we don't need to worry so much about cutting these in little pieces. Garlic now to it. There's about 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. And let it sit for a little bit. Doesn't matter how you slice your carrots because, like I said, it's going to get pureed. I'm just going to pour it in there along with our celery. And let it saute a little bit with the onions and garlic. So you can see our carrots a bit cooked as well as our celery. I'm going to add some thyme to this. You can also add sage to this. I just don't care for sage, but or rosemary. You can do either one of those, and it'll work. And then I'm going to add some cinnamon and some cayenne. And then we'll wait for our butternut squash to go in here and then be ready to eat it soon. Here is our butternut squash. As you can see, it's softened in the oven. So we're going to pour it on our mixture of vegetables and onions. And we're going to pour our apple as well. You always have time towards the end of the soup to add more spices to it. So whatever we added before, let's just keep it, and then we can taste it and see if it needs more. The only other thing is that we need to add vegetable broth to this or chicken broth. It's totally up to you, but for the purposes of this recipe, I am adding vegetable broth. And then you will put it on a low and simmer for a while. So you can see this is our butternut squash soup. Now I'm going to use my wonderful gadget. It is really a good gadget to have. we pureed it, and we're gonna add some half and half to it. The less you saute the onion, the less the color would be this dark. So it's totally up to you how much you sauteed. I like my vegetables sauteed well for a soup. And I will let it simmer just for a few minutes so the cream is incorporated well. Or you can just leave it like this while it's hot and it will incorporate by itself. So we're going to add our garnish to it, and of course our baguette. I have a trick for your baguette. If you want a garlic bread, all you have to do is take your garlic and rub against your bread. Enjoy. Soup we're making is chicken tortilla soup, which is one of the most popular Spanish soups in America. It's very tasty and easy to make. As always, we need lots of onions, so I'm going to chop some onions. Aren't you tired of me chopping onions for this section of my show? I think we chopped about 10 onions or so far. So now we're going to chop some garlic. What I'm doing is just pressing on them to kind of mush them up a little bit, so it'll be easier for me to chop these. I'm gonna add this to my onions. Okay. While waiting, I need to chop up some red peppers and a jalapeno pepper. Meanwhile, I'm going to pour this in our pot. So we are going to chop up some red peppers. Make sure you take the inside out, the ribs, I think that's what it's called. And then don't make them too thin, because you do want them to show in the soup. Add some jalapenos to this. People think jalapenos are very spicy. Actually, they're not. If you leave the seeds in there, it's going to be really spicy. But if you take the seeds out, it's really mild and it tastes really good. So I'm going to take out the seeds and then just cut these in little pieces. If you like it spicy, add the seeds. If you want more, just add more jalapenos to your soup. So now that we have most of our stuff prepared, we are going to also add some corn. I like this roasted corn because it has more flavor. So when we are ready, we can just pour it in there. So onions and garlic are ready to go. We're going to add our chicken to it. We're going to saute it with our onion and garlic. However, once this is cooked, we can pull it off with a fork and kind of shred it in our soup so it doesn't look like a whole piece of chicken there. I'm going to add some more cayenne to it. And just put the lid on and let it saute for a little bit. So for the chicken tortilla soup, we need some cilantro. I'm going to cut them in small pieces and keep some for garnish. Gosh, it smells so good. I wish we had smell-o-vision. going to add our red peppers and our jalapenos now in there, and make sure our chicken is cooked thoroughly and it's not still. So what we're going to do is just let this saute a bit. I'm going to add some chicken stock. This is low sodium chicken stock to make sure my chicken is cooked. Give it another 10-15 minutes and it should be cooked. The chicken is thoroughly cooked, so we're going to add our corn, our black beans, which I always wash and drain, and our fire roasted tomatoes. Mix everything together. And we are going to add some of our cilantro. And a bit of coriander. Cumin. Cumin makes everything taste good. Some paprika. And some chili powder. Not much, since we have already jalapenos in there. And add the rest of our chicken broth. Mix it a little bit more. And let that simmer for about 15 minutes or so. The chicken in the chicken tortilla soup is ready, so all I'm gonna do is shred it and put it back in the pot. So that way with each spoon, you will have chicken. So now you can see the chicken that has been shredded into the soup. And I'm gonna add a little bit of tomato paste and let it come to simmer. This is our chicken tortilla soup. As you can see, it looks really good and it smells wonderful. These are the toppings that can go on the soup. There is tortilla chips, there's cilantro, this is Mexican cheese, and some sour cream. So whatever you like, you can put any of those or all of them on, and hope you enjoy it. All the recipes for this section would be down below, and these are easy, hearty soups that you can do at home at any time, and I hope you enjoyed them and hope to see you next time. Enjoy.